Now to the Netherlands, and 7 months after elections there, the country finally has its new coalition government in place. The right-leaning coalition is seeking to implement several measures to limit immigration. The policies are not popular with everyone, and as you're about to see, they put the country on a collision course with the broader policies of the European Union.
New Prime Minister Dick Schoof signing the royal decrees that officially put him in office, the man selected after 223 days of negotiations, unaffiliated with any of the parties. A sign of how many disagreements there are among the ruling coalition, which only came together when far-right Freedom Party leader Geert Wilders gave up his bid to become Prime Minister, despite the party winning the most votes. That coalition brings together the Freedom Party with the center-right People's Party for Freedom and Democracy, the populist Farmer Citizen Movement, and the centrist New Social Contract Party. Their coalition agreement, titled Hope, Courage and Pride, calls for strict measures on asylum seekers, scraps family reunification for refugees, seeks to reduce the number of international students studying in the country, and wants exemptions from EU environmental rules. The Netherlands is a small country, but is a major trading partner for Germany, among others. Some of the new government's priorities clash with the European Union, another blow to the bloc, which has seen right-wing anti-EU governments take power in multiple member countries. The wild card is Geert Wilders, the Netherlands' longest-serving MP and leader of the far-right Freedom Party, which got the most votes. He's selected hardliners from his party to the new cabinet. It's unclear how he'll affect the government, but he's a vocal and visible presence with wide public influence. There are obstacles, however. Even before the swearing-in, youth groups, including from two of the coalition parties, were already pushing to limit the new government's asylum plans. The government is expected to release detailed plans in September.
Our correspondent Jack Farright has been covering this story and joins us now from Brussels. Jack, how much could the Netherlands change now that this anti-immigration government has taken office?
Well, I think it's going to be a huge change, Terry. There's going to be, firstly, a new Prime Minister. Mark Rutte, his predecessor, had been in power for 14 years, seen off many of the big politicians in the European Union, has been an ever-present figure. And there is this sense that there is this new government, a new set of ministers. For the first time, ministers from the far-right PVV party of Geert Wilders. And the question is, what will the Netherlands look like? We know that they've got this coalition deal in place. They've said, Dick Schoof has said that they will bring in the strictest ever immigration policy. They're basically going to turn the coalition deal that they've agreed between these four political factions into some kind of governing policy, some sort of governing outlook over the next few months. We expect by the end of the summer we'll have a clearer picture specifically, and what everyone will be looking at is how they try to reduce immigration, which is this big concern, especially for Geert Wilders, a man who has been convicted of being Islamophobic, for instance, for some of his campaign rhetoric. What's interesting is, within the context of sort of asylum applications in the European Union, in 2023, according to the EU's asylum agency, the Netherlands received just about 40,000 asylum applications, a tenth of what Germany did, for instance. So the question is, how are they going to try and reduce that number, which is actually, on the grand scheme of things when it comes to the rest of Europe, not a particularly high number?
Now, all this puts the Netherlands at odds with the European Union in many ways. How could this impact European Union migration and asylum policy, Jack?
Yeah, this will be the big question. Just before the spring, we saw the European Union sign off, finally managing to overhaul its asylum and refugee application process and how they do it. And the first thing that they changed was that the first country a migrant arrives in, they no longer, after this agreement, have to apply for asylum in that country. So the idea is that countries where people are arriving first, which is predominantly Greece and Italy, could share the burden and send people up into northern countries like the Netherlands, or those countries could choose to pay into the pot to protect those asylum seekers in other EU countries. What we expect from this new anti-immigration Dutch government is that they will refuse to accept people, but will probably fight back against the agreements to pay financially for other EU countries to support them. And they may even, Geert Wilders is not going to be a minister in this government, but he's going to be in the shadows and trying to pull a lot of strings in this. He may try to come to Brussels and push against this agreement that was made earlier this year and change the way that EU asylum deal works, especially as we have a new European Commission coming into place, a new European Parliament as well. So he'll perhaps fancy his chances on being able to tinker with that EU policy.
Now, this right-wing government that's taking office in the Netherlands reflects a general trend within Europe. We saw that in the European parliamentary elections. Tell us a little more, Jack, about the way the far right is surging ahead at European Union level.
Yeah, I've lost time to you there, Terry, but I think what I did hear in the first question was about the sort of rise of far-right governments across the European Union, and specifically in France as well. Yeah, it's interesting to see what's happening at the moment. The Netherlands, for instance, there's been on the fringes, Geert Wilders for decades has been sort of pushing for power, and now we're seeing that power actually come to fruition. Without him being Prime Minister, he was considered too far right for other Dutch coalition partners. But as you say, in France, there's now this chance of a potential for a far-right Prime Minister that would completely snarl up French politics, would greatly weaken Emmanuel Macron here in Brussels and in European Union spheres. But it's also about how these far-right politicians decide to sort of work together in the European Union. Geert Wilders and Marine Le Pen of the National Rally in France have had a long-standing friendship and allyship. So they're actually two big leaders that stand together, whereas a lot of the other far-right leaders, and especially some of the sort of resurgent ones, like we see Giorgia Meloni in Italy, she tries to steer away from some of the other leaders. So the question is, how will they all form? And if they are able to form sort of agreements and groups within European politics, how will they be able to exercise that power going forward?
Jack, thank you very much. That was our correspondent, Jack Farright, there in Brussels.